purpose of Freethought Forum is to be vigilant to the encroachment of religion into government and to educate the general public as to what a freethinker is.
My thoughts give me power.
No scholar can map them.
No hunter can trap them. No person can deny. Die Gedanken sind frei. No person can deny.
Hello and welcome to Freethought Forum. I'm Catherine Fahringer, the producer of this show and your host for this particular segment. Not since I had Molly Yard on my show have I had such a distinguished guest as I have today. Molly Yard, of course, is a national figure, but today I have an international figure. A man who travels very widely, and he has just happened to be in San Antonio, and I just happened to ask him if he'd be on my show, and he said yes. And I have Lavanam. His name is Lavanam, and he's staying with Dr. Kesavulu. So I have these two gentlemen on today, and I'd like you to meet them now, and I'll welcome them to the show. Welcome.
Thank you.
To Freethought Forum. Thank you for coming. What brings you to San Antonio, Mr. Lavanam?
See, I come to United States often to meet all my humanist, atheist, freethought, secularist friends here. In fact, this is my 9th visit. So Dr. Kesavulu happened to be our family friend, and besides, he's also an atheist. So as a like-minded person, I wanted to see him. And in turn, he introduced me to all of you. So I have a bonus point by meeting all of you.
That's wonderful. Well, what is your prime points that you will be going to here? Have you some big organization that you will be visiting and speaking to?
Yeah, I am invited by the American Humanist Association to participate in their weekend North American Committee for Humanism. Every year they have a weekend. This year they had their weekend in Buffalo on the 3rd weekend of November. I participate in it.
Oh, wonderful.
And besides that, Paul Kurtz runs the Free Inquiry Conference. So 1 week earlier, they had their conference in Orlando, Florida, and they too invited me. So
did you go there?
Yes, I did go to Orlando. Then the various humanist and atheist chapters in the United States, because I am fairly known to them, so they invited me. I have already visited Portland, Oregon, Humanist chapter and Atheist chapter. I was in Detroit, Michigan. Then I was in Los Angeles. I was in New York. So like that, I have been visiting various humanist and atheist groups in the United States to foster friendly relations between India and United States.
Oh, that's wonderful. Well, Mr. Kesavulu, have you known Lavanam long? Have you been friends for a long time?
I met him 2 years back in Atlanta, and when I knew that he is the son of Mr. Gora, a famous atheist of India, and I invited him and his wife to come to San Antonio, and we had a very good fellowship, and he has become one of my best friends.
Oh, that's marvelous. Well, you make it sound as if, of course, there are so many humanist and free-thinking organizations across the country, and I was in my 60s before I found out about even one. I'm retarded. And I think people out there don't know that there are organizations. I think some few people now since I've lived here have been acquainted with the fact that I am affiliated with one, which is the Freedom from Religion Foundation. Yeah. Plus, and I'm also in the American Humanist Association as well, and a few other things. But until I found the first one, I simply didn't know. So there's a lot then going on between us and your country. And I've heard that you actually have a humanist center in your country.
Yeah, we have what we call the Atheist Center. That is in Vijayawada in South India, in the state of Andhra Pradesh. Hyderabad is the capital city of my state. We are on the east coast, 300 miles north to Madras. In India, atheism is very ancient. It is accepted. Many people do not understand the difference between the Western society and the Eastern society. Freedom of thought has been accepted in Indian philosophy from time immemorial. So basically, most of the Indian philosophical scriptures and philosophical thinking has been skeptical. Even in the book Vedas, which is the oldest scripture in human history, there also they say we don't know where from the creation has come, who created it. Gods have come after the creation has come into being, like that. And in the end they say about the hymn of creation that if there were to be a God surveying the whole universe, he may know it, or happily he may not know it, where from the creation has come and whence it has come. So like that, there has been a free inquiry in Indian philosophy, and that's why Indian philosophy is considered to be incomplete without atheism.
Oh, isn't that marvelous? I wish we had that attitude here. I want to ask Dr. Kesavulu too, how long have you been an atheist? And did you start off as one? Was your family atheistic?
No, I've been brought up in a very orthodox Hindu family. And I grew up. Gradually, I found the conflicts between Muslims and Hindus, and that led me to think about the religion and make a deep study of my own Hinduism. That made me think that religion is after all man-made, and we should get over that in order to become human and respect human beings as human beings, not because they belong to any particular group or any religion or any. So I have become an internationalist, a humanist, and I'm happy to be in the...
Isn't it wonderful when you chuck it off and you're free to be you, yourself, and relate that way? I've always related to people well as human. I've never not known they weren't my fellows in this strange world, and that our fate is the same. But this emphasis put on religion is really dreadful because it divides people so. Don't you agree with that?
Yes, you see, basically we are all humans. But in the name of religion, in the name of race, in the name of nationality, in the name of caste and class, in the name of region and language, we are dividing ourselves. So this divisive tendency has been the enemy of humankind. So a time has come for us to search for our basic identity. And this, I think, is basically we are all humans. So we are all common in our quest for truth. We have common interests. And then we have the same kind of emotions, and we have the same kind of needs. So when we have so much in common, why should we divide ourselves? I don't understand. And finally, I feel we have been brainwashed that all good is God. Mm-hmm. But in fact, goodness has nothing to do with God. To be good and to do good, God and religion are not necessary. So to be good is humanness. By equating good with God, we are trying to create goodness as something superhuman.
Well, God's goodness is sort of strange because sometimes He's good and sometimes He's capricious, to say the least. And I would not want a friend who was that capricious in his love for me. I would want him to be a steady and true friend. And forgive my little mistakes I make and my humanness on the other side of it being my bad things rather than my good things, which, as you said, are human qualities. But we can't all be perfect all the time, and sometimes we hurt people I know that we don't mean to. It's hard, but I wish we could get to this
There
wonderful...
is nothing like total perfectness. You say, perfect, absolute, these are only ideas. We seek after them. They are like mirages. The more we go, the farther they. So, once we achieve an area which we consider to be perfect, after achieving it we see something more perfect. So, nothing is absolute, everything is relative. Relatively we grow from perfect to perfect, from truth to truth, from beauty to beauty. That's why Mahatma Gandhi, the Indian leader of national liberation struggle, and who gave the weapon non-violence and satyagraha to the world, and he named his autobiography as Experiments with the Truth. So he meant truth was not absolute, it was relative. Human being learns how to understand truth, how to practice truth, and in experiencing the truth in his or her practice, he moves from truth to truth. So perfection is also like that. There is nothing like total perfect.
But that's the problem with the fundamentalists. Don't you both agree on that? Because they have this idea that there is an absolute. There's absolute good, and God is absolutely marvelous, and that you don't have ethics based on, as they call them, situational ethics, I believe, and their rules are hard and fast. But the Bible isn't hard and fast. It contradicts itself over and over again. How about your holy book? Does it contradict itself?
In fact, we don't have one holy book. We have several holy books in India,
isn't that
in Hindu
interesting?
religion. Yes, you see, religion is full of contradictions. Every holy book has a lot of contradictions. So out of these contradictions, people take what they want. So that's why I think these religious books are recordings of human behavior. So human behavior itself is fully contradictory. There are good things, there are bad things, there are something to be emulated, there are something to be left out. So they have recorded all these things, our reason, our emotion, our blindness, our belief. So the good and bad, everything of the human nature is recorded in the religious books. So in one way, we can call them, they are the encyclopedias of our being. So when we look at them, they are not all good, neither they are all bad. So good and bad, a mixture in them. To project them, take good out of it. But when we attribute absolutes to the goodness, then the problem comes. So because religious people have attributed absolute to the goodness, as there is nothing like an absolute. Absolute is only a concept, is an idea. If anybody wants to try to define absolute, it ceases to be absolute. So our talk about absolute is, that is relatively absolute, but not absolutely absolute.
I love that. Well, tell me, you mentioned being with Gandhi for a while. He's very famous as a very religious personage. Did you find yourself in some kind of philosophical differences with him, or?
See, Gandhi, the beauty of Gandhi has been, he was trying to grow. In trying to grow, he tried to find the commonness among the people for growth. And in that one, basically he believed that all human beings are equal. So all equal human beings should be free. So he fought for not only the freedom of Indians, he fought for the freedom of every human being in the world. So in that one, traditionally he felt there was a God and God gave him strength. But later on he encountered with atheists. My own father Gora was being one of them. When he encountered atheists, then he found atheists are also doing good work. Atheists are also truthful. They are also nice people. Then just to equate goodness with God was wrong, he felt. So he felt that atheism was also seeking after truth. So in this situation, when he met Romarola in 1933, when he was returning from London from his second roundtable conference, he changed his position from thinking God is truth to truth is God. And that was a very remarkable change he started. He did not stop there. Then when he talked to my father on atheism, Gandhiji went a step further and he said, after all, truth is truth. So Gandhiji's travel from God is truth to truth is God to truth is truth shows Gandhi was ready to make belief in God a personal affair, and for social activity he was ready to accept only truth, because truth is a social obligation, whereas God is only a personal belief. As a personal belief, it is subjective to each individual according to his convictions and according to his conceptions. But truth, as a social necessity, it is to be verified, and unless it is verified, it cannot be truth. So Gandhiji took to God as a personal belief. For truth, he said, let us verify it and find out If it is truth, then only let us accept as a truth. So truth and belief are two different things. And God is only a belief, it is not truth. So basing a social structure on mere belief and not allowing that belief to be verified brought in superstitious and blind belief in the human society. So once anything is open for question, open for verification, then what is belief, we can say this is belief and we can keep it aside. And what is truth, we can say this is common, this is verifiable, and it is common to all, and this is truth. So Gandhiji accepted that position towards the end of his life.
Well, I wish more people knew that, because he's always pointed out as very, very religious, and I'm assuming they when they say that, they mean strictly according to his religion. But this is very interesting. And also
another thing about Gandhi was, even though he felt he was a Hindu, but he considered himself that he was also a Christian, he was also a Muslim, he was also a Zoroastrian, he was also a Buddhist, he was also a Sikh, like that, because he wanted to associate himself with everyone irrespective of religion. In the end, in that process, he associated himself with atheists and said, I am also an atheist.
Hey, that's great. I love it. From what you're saying, though, I hear you have a humanist center in India. You say it's open there. People don't condemn atheists. I think you're miles ahead of us over here. We're still, have you found any problem, Dr. Kesavulu, with your atheism interfering with your work, or people being critical? Or
I became a scientist because I wanted to find truth through science, and philosophy of science I was deeply interested in. That's why I became a scientist, and in that work, whatever atheism or whatever humanism that I developed was confirmed by study of science and practice of science. And science, everything has to be verified. It doesn't matter who discovers something or who says what, we have to verify. That is the basic tenet of science. And that coincides with our rational approach to the problems of life, to the problems of society, and how we solve them. So a scientific method and scientific approach is the basic approach that we should develop for solving all human problems. And that is my concept.
Well, but I was referring to friends, co-workers, and things like that. I know there are scientists who have that little corner of their brain walled off from the rest of it because they still have their belief. And I find it astonishing when they are in the sciences, how they can...
In a scientific, you do find a lot of scientists who profess that they are very religious. But it's hard to say. Every scientist, if he is a real scientist, cannot be other than a rationalist, an atheist. It's only they are afraid of the society in which they live. As a result, they put on the religious cloak and say, oh, these are all some of the beliefs. Otherwise, they are all rationalists and non-believers.
Well, it certainly would be terrible if everybody was putting on a religious cloak because they think everybody else is religious and wants them to look like them. Gosh, let's drop those cloaks. Let's...
Religion has become a fashion nowadays, and it has been a kind of a brainwashing. So people have been brainwashed to believe certain things. So scientists are also human beings. So they are great people in their respective areas of science, but traditionally they carried their beliefs. So that's why in their own areas they are great, but in the area of religion and truth seeking about God and all that, they are ordinary people. It is like saying you are so tall, don't you know how to climb a tree? So being tall and climbing tree are two different things. So also one may be a tall person in science, but
a short person
in belief system and all that one. So when I was telling about India, that in Indian philosophy is incomplete with atheism, people should not misunderstand. Philosophically, India has atheism and skepticism, but in practice, India has been a land of all sorts of superstition, blind belief, and then rituals, animal sacrifice, sometimes human sacrifice, variety of social evils. So atheism in India started cleaning up the society, particularly the caste system, the animal sacrifice, untouchability is there, where fellow human beings are treated as subhuman. So India is a mixture of many things. In this mixture of many things, India has the philosophical tolerance from time immemorial. Because of that philosophical tolerance, Hinduism calls itself humanism. So when they want to quote tolerance, they quote the scriptures which have promoted tolerance and all that. But they don't practice the tolerance. That's why we have the problem of Hindus and Muslims. That's why we have the problem of untouchability and various religions. That's why recently we had the problem of Khalistan, the Sikhs and all that. So India has produced many great thinkers and great social reformers. For instance, take the case of Buddha.
Yeah, but you're right.
Buddha said, I don't want God. I don't need God. For me, just ethics is enough. So Buddhism is ethics without God. Then take the case of Mahavira. He said, I don't care to know about God. There is no God. So Mahavira, when he started his Jainism, Jainism is considered to be godless religion because they don't accept God.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah, Mahavira is the prophet of Jainism, so contemporary of Buddhism. So they said, we don't believe in God. So that is called the godless religion. So India has produced many philosophical pluralistic attitudes. So India deep-rooted in philosophical pluralism and then practice of various rituals and all that one. So tolerance became very necessary for its existence.
They've certainly had a lot of head bashing and body killing over there over religious differences, haven't they? So there's kind of well, there is a broad mixture, I must say. But do you find it's the poorer people, the lower class, that are more superstitious than because when you rise up in society, you're rising because of your education.
It is natural. You say poor people, they need some solace to be poor. So religion has provided them solace. So most of the poor people in India believe that God has written on their forehead their fate, fatalistic theory. So they say, when God has written poverty on our forehead, how can we be else? When God has written illiteracy on our forehead, how can we be literate? When God has written ignorance on our forehead, how can we be informed? So taking some kind of refuge in believing that God condemned them to be poor, condemned them to be illiterate, condemned them to be ignorant. So this is a kind of a solace. So one of the uses of God in religion has been as the instrument of solace. So poor people need more solace because they have no opportunities, very few opportunities left to them. So without opportunities, just to condemn themselves to be poor, they cannot do it without some kind of a solace. And religion provides that solace. Oh, you are unfortunate. Man proposes, God disposes. So even though you thought of becoming big or great or rich or something, you cannot do it because God willed otherwise. And Hindus also believe in previous life and rebirth. So they think in the previous life I might have done some wrong. So for that God has punished me, condemning me to be poverty in this life, condemning me to a low caste birth in this life. So like that, they take solace with the instrument of God and belief in God, a superstitious solace, not rebelling. So that's why social reforms in India have made people to rebel against the situation.
Well, I was just thinking that now when they're poor and or say they have some disability or something, and they say, well, I did something in an earlier life, and that's why I'm this way now, do they think they're going to get out of that bad life? Or if they're very good, that the next time around that things will be better? Or is it going to stop there? I don't think that would be much of a solace to me if I...
That is the major problem. Tolstoy once said that to do injustice to somebody is bad, but to make him believe that injustice is for his good is criminal.
That's
Yes.
true.
And this is what religion does.
It's what it did to the slaves in this country.
Yeah, this is what religion does. It is meant for the oppressors, so that they go on oppressing the people and make them believe it is for their own good. And so they developed the theory of reincarnation, the theory of karma, which is fate, all that. They developed the theory to keep the people in their place so that they don't rebel. Today, after independence, you see, the literacy was very low, about 15-20% when the British left. Now, you see, with the gradual spread of the education, now it has come to about 50-55%. And now there is a big program going on in India to make India 100% literate by the year 2000. And it is a remarkable, it's a revolution is going on in India. And if this is allowed to go within a decade or two, India will be a very enlightened and upcoming country.
In continuation to what Dr. Kesavulu has said, the freedom struggle of India and various social reform movements in India have awakened the common people to a stature of self-respect and then recognizing the self-confidence. So, today in India we see a new urge is coming, and this new urge is well placed even in the Constitution. We have an article called Fundamental Duties in the Constitution of India, and in the Fundamental Duties, Article 51A, the H subclause says, it is the fundamental duty of every citizen of India to promote scientific temper, humanism, spirit of inquiry, and reform.
Oh, I wish. And on that note, we are going to have to say goodbye from Freethought Forum. And we should do this again, but it's going to be hard to get a man who's jetting all over the world. Please tune in again next week. Goodbye.
Thank you.
My conscience decrees, this right I must treasure.
My thoughts will not cater
To duke or dictator, no person can deny. Die Gedanken sind frei, no person can deny. Die Gedanken sind frei. And should tyrants take me and throw me in prison, my thoughts will burst free like blossoms in season.
Foundations will crumble and structures will tumble.
And free people shall cry,